Surely, you have things that you don't like doing. I'll give away a little bit about myself and confess that I really don't like to fold the laundry or take out the trash. In an informal poll I conducted, I talked to someone else who greatly disliked following directions to assemble something. And we all know the truth about our disliked jobs. They don't go away until they're done. On a much greater scale, that's kind of what we see in the gospel today. Jesus has a job to do. Even if he didn't always know precisely what his job was going to require of him, he has certainly figured it out by now. Can you imagine how it must have loomed before him? In one description, we're told that Jesus set his face like flint to go to Jerusalem. It probably took all of his will to stay the course to his execution. Imagine being faced with something like that, and one of your favorite people in the world is trying to convince you that you don't have to. No, you shouldn't do it. No wonder Jesus replied so sharply to Peter, the rock upon whom the church would be built. In that instance, Peter was appealing to Jesus's human weakness. Jesus was determined to go through with his job, to go through with the task which had been set before him. At this point in the story, no one realizes it yet, but Jesus has begun to teach us about resurrection. What he is doing coincides with Paul's advice to the Romans about giving up our lives to save them. And it provides a foundation for modern day teachers like Richard Rohr to talk to us about the lifelong practice of resurrection. Until you surrender your own willfulness in order to fold the laundry, take out the trash, or follow the assembly instructions, you will never arrive to the new moment in time when it will no longer be required of you, at least for a while. No matter how much we might fear, dread, deny, avoid, hide from, or pretend we don't have to do something. Anything hard, like grieve a heartbreaking loss, suffer a humiliation, follow a course of treatment, or even die. We can't get around what we don't like. The only way around is through. We must go through the experience. And then we emerge on the other side. This is the never failing, oft repeated cycle of life, death, and life after death, or life, near death, and life after a brush with death. This is what we call resurrection. Jesus' one resurrection to life again after his crucifixion, his crucifixion on the cross, makes all other resurrections possible, knowable, and trustworthy. It gives us hope in every moment that feels like death or feels like a death. Live through this painful transition, and there will be new life on the other side. When you understand the meaning of resurrection, then listening to the advice of Paul is more comprehensible and more sensibly full of joy. Paul goes so far as to claim that sacrificing self now provides joy simply out of the knowledge of what will be on the other side. If your job is to serve others in love, then waste no time in doing it in many ways, repeatedly. At this time in the world, it seems that the jobs we have are for the common good. We are asked to do things we may not want to do. Many of our day-to-day activities have had to cease. We wear masks and avoid people. All of this done with the hope that the virus can be defeated before it defeats us. Another job for the common good is that of raising up lives which have been easier than others to ignore. We are asked to recognize that we, white people, are at advantage in the status quo of our day. We are asked to work together and become willing to change the status quo so that it is not so easy to disregard devaluing of some lives. Return to the verses of Paul's letter today. Let love be genuine. Do not lag in zeal. Be ardent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with joy. We people have a flawed human nature. Our ego, our self, makes it easy for us to avoid doing things we don't want to do or avoiding parts of life we don't want to deal with. Sooner or later, something happens. A loved one sets their face like flint toward Jerusalem. A deadly plague sweeps the planet. We are forced to finally recognize what society has been doing while we weren't paying attention. We learn. There are times more clear than any other when we must set ego aside, when self is no longer the rule maker. For what will it profit us if we gain the whole world but forfeit our lives? We find new life in resurrection. We set self aside and go through experiences that feel like death in order to come out on the other side. A better life, a new start, forgiveness, and mutual love in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Amen.